It's just up there where the monument is. That area right in there is not part of it. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, you go to the city hall and find out where the property records are.
find
and
the
who bought it.
deed.
Well, I
Well,
think they're
you think
working
they
on
haven't?
that
They
now,
should be
but
looking at that.
it sounds
I
like
guess they
George
should.
Pack. It's George Pack, right? His name is Pack. I guess his name.
well, it sounds
Yeah.
like they're like you were talking about somebody racing the ambulance.
And
it
if it's
sounds
private
like,
property or city-owned property, they need to keep it. If
it sounds like that's what they're doing with this because they're saying that city council and these people are meeting behind closed doors, but there's actually a hearing that's coming up further down the road to decide if this was actually the right. I don't get it
I
anyway.
don't like the aftertaste of these things either.
One thing I've learned is try to be as on best terms as possible with the natives, for the people, and I can hear it and feel it. I know how I can feel to be somewhere like this and be born and bred here and gone through the school system here and whatever, and all around you see people, making tons of money and this and that and the other, and still you're out there on some little piece of land somewhere just trying to make ends meet.
But what I think about that too is, in this society, it's true that nobody really owes anybody anything, and if you haven't gone out there and done something with your life, then that's not
You're
anybody
exactly
else's
right.
life.
You're exactly right.
That's your problem.
Right, but
You
some of the
could've
people
done
that come in
something.
here had better
We've all had the
opportunities.
same one life, same amount of time to
That's what I'm
live.
saying. They come from privilege. They come, from people that they just had a better chance. Where some of these people here they couldn't afford to go to college.
That's
Some of them
true,
didn't
too.
even get through high school. There may have been farmers. Their grandmas and grandpas may have been farmers. They lived through the Great Depression. They lived through. I don't know how much tobacco was up in here. At one time.
I reckon there was enough tobacco up here.
Right.
Did they not grow
Yeah.
tobacco up here?
That's what they did
number
in
one.
Madison County.
Huh?
That's what they did in
Madison and Buncombe was number 1 and 2 for the western part of the state.
I've seen
Really?
tobacco grown here. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Oh, it still is, but it's not nowhere near what it used to be.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I was raised in Wilson County in eastern
yeah.
North Carolina.
Hey, man.
I came up here in about '89 for the first time. Before that, we used to go up to Boone and a friend that had a place up there, and then we'd go to Grandfather Mountain on occasions. And then it's real funny. One time, my dad and I were coming back through this
I'll
way.
talk to you later, okay?
Anyway, yeah. So I've been here officially since like '93.
So anybody we know?
He's been on my show before.
Oh.
He was
Not somebody who's been on my show, just somebody
on my show. Yeah, on my show. He ran for county commissioner, but he didn't get anywhere.
Real estate is so expensive here, and that's what another thing that governs this town is the price of real estate. I mean, we sold a 26-acre farm back east, my grandfather's farm after he
She
passed
goes to Iowa.
away. And I think for 26 acres with a farmhouse and a barn, we got like,
Water right now, isn't it?
I heard it was around $250,000. Here you sell a
Price
cottage for
will be cheap.
$275,000.
But the same things like I came from Massachusetts, and
Land
even
or a
if
lake, what do you buy?
it's another place, the
I want
money
some
is
land- I
still
want
a
a house on a
complication.
lake.
It might not be the same amount, but you're also working at
House on
different
a lake.
wages.
That's what's
So
out there,
every
people
place
know.
is still in the same situation.
Well,
no matter where you
economically,
go.
I knew that as soon as I came here, like in '89 or '93, when I came back from Raleigh. Economically, your pay scale here is not comparable to what you're finding in Raleigh.
Yeah,
Higher
we've
wages are in
noticed that.
Raleigh, and
But then with higher wages comes higher living expenses, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, I was in Boston, and yeah, sure, I was
No,
making
that's not
$12,
always
$14 an hour.
That's-
I don't
living
That's not
expenses
always
are
true.
higher.
Our,
Taxes are
the rents and stuff around here are as high as they are in Charlotte, but you can go from here to Charlotte and,
Well, the
and
smartest-
make twice the money.
The smartest thing I ever learned was to commute to get to work. If you want to make some extra money, go somewhere where the money is, and then come back and bring it home. That's how it works.
If you'll notice, most of our better government is from 77 east, not west.
Right.
And the jobs and everything. That's where our problem lies. We have to blame our own government from in
Right.
our area for not bringing
Yes, you do.
good jobs here and bringing training here.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
you
gotta,
don't get industry here, but now I can tell you something about that. Wilson has Glaxo and some of those major industrial, pharmaceutical plants in there. And I went back in 99, 2000, 2001, I was there, and I watched how these things worked. And what they were doing was they were bringing people in on like temp jobs. Say they'd hire 25 people in with a temp agency. They said, yeah, if you work really hard, you work really good, there's a possibility that
You'll
we'll give you a
hire-
job full time. So they're getting maximum amount of labor from these people. All of them are working their butt off because, yeah, they want full time with Glaxo. in reality, they'd never hire any of them. Maybe one or two, you know. And then if you got on full time, of course, you got benefits or whatever. But I mean, to me,
Well, that's why
I know
you
it's
just-
business, but I don't like it.
See, that's why I just don't involve myself with temp agencies, because knowingly it's gonna be feast or famine. You're not going to get guaranteed work, and that's just something you go in knowing.
I think they should put real strict laws on temp agencies because they abuse people that way. If they've got a good job, they want to temp it out and keep it temp forever and not pay no
know.
benefits.
That's,
That's
right.
right,
You're
they'll do
exactly
it.
right.
That's what
That's
we
right.
need to prevent.
That's-
Yes,
They try
that's
to do
exactly
back
right.
home.
That's
They-
one. Yes, exactly.
They'd rather pay manpower,
Right.
That's right.
$12 an
The
hour,
company.
$12 an hour to get an employee to come work and then
That's
pay
right.
that employee $7
Yeah,
an hour.
Right.
Yep,
'cause
you're
they're
right.
paying the company
and they don't have to
right
pay
now.
any benefits out. They don't have to give you any insurance packages. No, nothing.
Right, and they can
Either.
turn around tomorrow and say, we don't need you.
We don't need you anymore after 6 months.
No.
They've been there,
That's
and they
right.
get them to work harder. They're going to get maximum amount of labor because every one of them says, "Yeah, man, I
I
want
work
this
hard
job.
enough."
If I work my rear end up, I'm going to get
Then
on
you
full
get
time.
hired,
Then
and
I
you
get hired and
lose
I get the
the money, too.
benefits. You get what?
You get hired and you're kind of losing that money too, because you end up making less than you were making as a temp.
I don't know about that.
No,
'Cause they'll
you-
start you at their wage rather than the temp wage.
Normally it's a higher wage.
Yeah,
for
normally
you.
it is a higher wage. I think. Yeah,
Yeah, if you do.
if you
So
get
that
hired.
needs to be changed.
Well,
That's
the
a big
biggest the
if.
biggest thing that needs to happen, and we're talking about principles here, fundamental down to the what's got to change, is an attitude that our businesses are about supporting our communities and having people get training, employment, and hopefully raise their kids and families in the community
That's right.
and build their own community. Instead, bottom line is the companies are looking at the bottom line, and it's all about profit. And until we change our philosophy and our mentality that, you know, yeah, it's going to cost a little more to give people a living wage, but the money, the payback, the reward you will get on that in the future generations is incalculable.
The people in the community are just resources. It's just
Right.
like if there's iron ore there, and are there enough people to dig it?
Right.
You know, they call it human resources.
Right.
It's just like natural resources.
Right.
And part of the problem is that we have computers now, and computers can compute the bottom line, and we let the computers make the decisions
Right.
based on the bottom line. And it can be shown that if you do what the computer says, that you'll make more money for the stockholders because the computer says you do this, this, and this, and you know, you send your jobs to Mexico,
Right.
whatever. You totally destroy the community in the process, and we've made so much money from following the bottom line, so the decisions that the computers make instead of letting human beings make decisions,
Right.
that we've almost bankrupt the entire country.
Right.
We've made so much money now. Now the computers don't breathe air.
Right.
Human beings do breathe air. So hopefully a human being would take into account something more than a computer would take into account
Right.
when making a decision that would involve the air we breathe.
Right.
Computers don't drink water. Then human beings do drink water.
Where they're emotionally devoid.
But the computer can show you that if you do not put an extra $1 billion
Filter or whatever,
into
right.
filtering the water coming out of your factory,
Hey,
that
that's
you
another
will
2 points on
show
the whatever. Right.
you'll show better. And I don't think that computers love their children.
Right.
They don't have the
they don't.
capacity. It's like Spock on the Enterprise. They have they're absolutely devoid of the ability
So
to understand
in
emotions
conjunction with people
or
guiding their own
feelings.
destinies and being responsible about reinvesting profit back into the communities they come from, there also needs to be coupled with that is responsibilities from the CEOs, because you've never seen in the history of economics such a disparity between what the CEO makes versus the
worker.
lowest worker.
Right.
And that's where unions and stuff started up, as they start realizing that they're working their butts off, and this guy's pushing a pencil, and you know he's reaping it. It's like I'm all for people who are more skilled being paid what they're worth, but not being paid more than they're worth.
Right, and people say, "Oh, well, Americans are lazy," and stuff like that, and you know there may be some truth in that, but also I know a lot of people. I know a lot of Americans,
Right.
and I know a lot of Americans that are glad to do plenty of work and all when allowed to,
Right.
and they want to get a decent wage for what they do,
But what he said, well, I think always in any business, labor cost is going to be a huge part of your equation.
Right.
And, just about any company I've ever heard of, as far as, anything that was incorporated or, a major corporation or something, they always give their managers X number of hours for labor costs. And you either have to get that labor in on that amount of time, or you're gonna have to do it yourself.
Well, let me tell you what. If I am big corporation XYZ, and I'm already invested to the hilt by everybody and everything. Okay.
That's over 6.
Today's Thursday. We're at 7. We go to
Oh, we
7.
get to run 7. Oh, okay.
But if
I
I'm
kept
if,
waiting for it to cut.
if I'm big
Yeah, I'm
if
like-
I'm big business XYZ and I've got a big
That's what I had to say,
corporation.
I thought he was going to wrap it up.
And I owe
We're just getting
everybody in the
going.
world, right? And then and I'm about to go bankrupt.
Right.
I can get a bailout, and I can get all kinds of government loans and stuff like this at low to no interest loans and all to save my big business because I'm so important to America. And then I can take all that money
Right.
that I get on these government loans, and I can take it to Mexico, and I can build me a factory in Mexico,
Exactly.
and I can hire a lot of Mexican
Half the
workers.
labor costs.
Right,
Yeah.
and maybe save my business in the process, and then I can turn around a few years later, and I can start another little division in Mexico, and I can let that division break off and become, I can sell that off to somebody else and let it become its own little entity, and then it can turn around and it can buy out my factory that I built with the American loans in Mexico for a fraction of what its actual value is, et cetera, et cetera. Basically, the rich can take their money and they can take your money via loans and stuff and move out of town tomorrow. If the money is not distributed evenly, see, the middle class and the lower class and stuff, they're not leaving town tomorrow. They're going to stay right here. Right in town, because this is where they grew up. Families grew up here. They're going to stay here. And if the money is in their hands, the money's going to stay here. But when you put the money in the hands of the rich, they can say thanks a lot. And you know what? If I don't like the way things are going around here, I'll go somewhere else. And they're gone. And they don't see the misery of their neighbors.
Right.
But the computers, they don't care about the misery of their neighbors. And we're letting the computers make the decisions. That's not a smart move. Go ahead.
Computers are for storage.
Or let the
Have I-
computers do the math.
That's it.
You're right, John. You're
Oh.
dead on it.
I thought maybe I had struck a nerve with you or something.
No.
And you were gonna.
No, no, I don't. I
gonna
agree.
go.
We got to have businesses.
Thank you so much for
You're
coming.
welcome. You're welcome.
We do appreciate it.
CJJ.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I did.
Look forward to maybe seeing your show on the air tonight. That'd be
Yeah! Mount Dungeon.
Mount
good. Might be
Dungeon.
on. Mount Dungeon might be on tonight.
Tonight.
Mount Dungeon with what band
Dungeon
now?
Master says.
At
Right
11,
there.
Mount Dungeon at 11 o'clock. What's the name of the band?
The Josh Phillips and Folk Festival.
Josh
Will be
Phillips.
on at 11 o'clock. I am Pablo. I'm a scary bug.
He
Yeah.
doesn't look like a bug. He's a
All
bug
right.
in a costume.
Take
See you guys
care.
later.
Bye. Is he like Men in Black?
Several years ago, there was an example of sort of what he was talking about. There was a company that was looking at Asheville as a prospect for their business, and when they
Yeah, I
did the
like
math
those
on the
brown
real
ones.
estate and how much it was going to cost
I do
them per
not
square
like these.
foot,
These are gross.
they could go to, I think it was Indiana
Nasty.
or somewhere else and do the exact same thing
I
for
remember
half
that.
the cost.
I remember.
So why should I go to Asheville, North Carolina versus Indiana? Other than you could say, well, you could have a lot of arguments for that, quality of life and quality of living.
Well, there's a lot of ways to do it, and the point is to be able to maintain a balance. And in order to maintain a balance, you have to work at it all the time. There's a balance that can be found about those things, and I feel like a balance in those things are good for everybody involved. even the rich. Maybe the rich won't make as much money now, but you know what? If they deplete their resources, even
Right.
the human resources,
That's right.
it's going to turn around and bite them in the rear in the long run.
Well, we see
You
some of that happening now. I mean, that's why we're having the housing crisis that we're in, and you know, we're
So-
seeing fallouts
Right.
already of what some of this greediness has done.
So maintaining a balance as opposed to
Extreme on either
a
end.
quick buck. That's
Right.
really.
I just wouldn't want to think that government would control private business. But
Well-
if an entrepreneur puts money in risk, then he should be rewarded. Now we need to keep that in mind.
Oh,
Okay.
I agree, but don't you know? See, we had to do that. So after the Great Depression, you know, they had trust busters and stuff like that. They broke up Standard Oil, and they put the brakes on the robber barons.
The railroads too, about that time, right?
Right. See, that's why we had all our antitrust laws and stuff like that. Well, now that later we came around with deregulation and all came in. It was coming in during Nixon, heavily during Reagan. And right on up through Bush, heavy deregulation and stuff. Well, then Standard Oil put themselves back together again. See what I mean? There was a reason we broke up Standard Oil. See what I mean? But now they've put themselves back together again. Well, now what's happening to us? See, now we're working ourselves into another depression. There was a reason we did that after the depression, but see, everybody's forgot about that now.
Yeah, because your grandparents or great grandparents aren't telling their great grandkids or grandkids,
Mine did.
don't look at, you know.
My grandfather explained to me the Great Depression before he died, how eggs were a commodity, how they happened to have a mill they could grind corn with to make, and he, in exchange for grinding that, the people would give him some of the
Right,
mill,
so bartering
and that
as
was
opposed to
exactly
currency, right.
bartering. You know, I did something.
But that's why. But see, that's what happened. It was like it is getting to be now, and that's what caused the Great Depression. They saw that, they realized that, they saw what happened, and that's why they made those laws, and that's why they broke up Standard Oil and a bunch of stuff like that. The same people, the same families that have been involved since way back then have been fighting against those laws and all ever since because. For what reason? Well, if I invest in something, I should make all the money I can,
Investing
even if it
money, yeah.
bankrupts the country. You know, and which is getting ready to happen. Have you noticed?
Well, my response to that would be, John, you may be right, but I would say this, partial right anyway. I don't think it just happened under, as you real neatly put it, Nixon,
Nixon.
Bush, and Reagan years. I mean, we had other presidents during that period too. We had Carter and Clinton. So I mean, it was a whole spectrum.
And Clinton played along way too much with the conservatives for my taste.
Well, now let me, and I don't want to sound like a preacher, but I heard this several years ago while it was in my car, truck or something. It was a radio show. Maybe it was Charles Stanley. You know, some
You
Christian
can sound
show.
like a preacher if you want
Yeah,
to.
maybe it was
You
some
want-
Christian show I was
You want me to
listening
say if it's real good, we'll say amen. Here.
You know, and I was listening to this. You know, it's like if everybody lived by this creed and this philosophy, what a perfect world it would be. And basically, this, you know, they called in, and the question was that, okay, I'm an employer. I come into a community. You know, I walk in and I start a brand new business. All right. I hire some minimum wage workers, or the competitive halfway wage for that, skill level or whatever. All right. 2-3 years later, I'm living in a really nice house, got a family. You know, things are going really well. I'm paying taxes, and but those people that are working their butt off for me every day. You know, they're living in a Section 8 apartment, or they're living in a trailer park in a trailer, or, they're just surviving. And even though they're loyal to me, I've gone from just coming into this huge house, got all these wonderful things happening for me, but this person that's working for me every day is just surviving. Well, according to Charles Stanley and some of the rest of them, you're not living up to Christian morality. If you're allowing that to occur in your business, if you're not doing everything in your power to either help that worker increase their skill level, help them go back to school, get a degree, if you're not doing everything, at least if you can't put them on the same level, a comparable level, to where they're, their work is not, you see what I'm saying?
We
What
call
he's
that
saying?
welfare.
Right, well,
We call that welfare.
you know, and it's true, you know, if you've got people working for you and that's what you're doing, then, you know, what's the difference? I mean, I know it doesn't sound realistic, but
Well,
if you're
it sounds
living
alright.
as a Christian, from a Christian perspective, what they're saying is that until you can treat your employees adequately and treat them, you know, do the very best you can for them, you're always going to have some of the same problems.
We
that-
strive to have goals, and if a person fails to strive to have a goal,
Right.
then they're complacent. If they're complacent, they may be happy in Section 8 housing.
Right.
They may not want to go any further, but then again, they may. And we all right should give them that opportunity, but I don't, it
believe
should
that
not.
anybody's happy in Section 8
Well,
housing.
Well, some are pig in slop.
I think that they
I think
can be
John may agree
painted
with
to
me.
look that way, and I think
No.
that they can have people that's,
Honestly,
you know,
I don't think anyone in the right mind would have to be complacent in there, but there's a small percentage, I guess, that's complacent,
true.
but, as far as you're saying that it should be an employer's responsibility to bring them on.
Right.
It
At least
depends
a
on
certain-
it depends on his,
right.
the type of work he's got. If he's got some work that requires advanced training, sure. I think
Yeah,
a lot
but
of
do you
employers
understand
do
what they're
pay,
saying
yeah.
in that principle?
Yeah,
is that,
that the
they're
man
saying that
is-
you're excelling, you're making tons of money, which is the same thing we see now happening with the gas corporations. I mean, they're the only ones that's making money. They're making millions of dollars in profits or whatever right now. Yeah,
Billions.
billions of dollars in profits.
Trillions.
And we're absolutely powerless. We have to spend $4 a gallon for gasoline when they could easily say, you know what, we're being greedy. We're going to cut back on some of this profit
But
because
see, the
we-
truth of the matter is we know we don't have to pay $4 a gallon. You can ride a bike. You can
Right,
take public
right.
transportation. You can walk. You as an individual have
You're-
choices
right,
that you can make.
right.
Now you're right. It
You
is
see what I'm saying?
easier. It is
Yeah.
easier to have a car and and drive gas and whatever.
Realistically, though,
And
that's not feasible.
for most people. You're
do you
right.
see what
I mean,
I'm
what's going to
saying?
happen with fuel? I mean, because a
We'd
truck
have to
driver
change our
makes his living.
lifestyles. We'd have to change
Right.
the
It's
nature of our
significant.
society, how
Yes.
we work too. Things would have to become more localized and less spread out.
Right.
You know, we'd have to be able to get our
connection,
groceries and
ability,
things within
whatnot.
walking distance.
Right.
Well, you
But
know-
I don't think we need to do that. We just need to get the fuel back to where it needs to be, and also look for other forms of energy.
Well, the
But
thing
even,
is,
even still, like I may be able to ride my bike from here to work, but that doesn't mean a truck driver makes his living hauling goods around the country. He can't do
That's
that on a
right.
bike.
Yeah, but
You
what
know
they're
what I mean?
doing is price gouging.
Oh,
thing-
certainly, I'm
yeah,
aware.
you can
like-
you can also bet for the billions that of oil that the oil companies are making in profit, higher profit margins than have ever been seen, higher profits
In
than
the
have ever
history
been
of
seen
economics.
in the history of economics. You can bet for all that profits that they're making that there are also 101 loopholes in which they are hiding the profits that they're making. And you know this is true if you know how corporations work and how paperwork works and all that kind of stuff. That the true numbers will never
Never be known.
really be known, but they have to be astronomical.
Do you not think the oil companies, though, with all the money and resources they have, you don't think they've been strategists that has looked back in 2002 and say, this is going to happen
Yeah.
in 10 years
Wow.
because we're not.
Well, that's how they would theorize it.
and that's what I'm
because,
saying.
yeah.
So they knew it was coming.
Right.
They knew it was coming.
They knew
But
it was coming.
because of government restrictions.
And
we have to.
they've
Big
been-
part of it's government.
They've
restrictions.
been waiting for it.
They wanted it to happen.
Well, that's how they
Absolutely.
justify this because they say in years past we weren't making that profit, so we have to take it now while we can to make up for the years that we didn't make
Oh,
it.
they've always made money.
Well, okay, one of the big problems is this. Okay, way back from the Second World War, when there was necessary to have enough high-grade fuel to run the Air Force that we needed to run to fight the Second World War, we could not actually produce enough high-grade fuel. So a deal was swung between the government and the oil companies and the U.S. car manufacturers that said if the oil companies would agree to invest and build the cracking towers necessary to produce the high-grade fuel that we needed to fight the war, that the U.S. car companies would see to it that the U.S. automobiles always ran off of high-grade fuel, and that way that the oil companies would be able to recoup their money with profit and good profit for having made that investment. And they have, and I think it's fair to say they have recouped and then some by now. and they're recouping even more. But in the process, we got stuck with a thing called the internal combustion engine. There are other ways to make cars. Before all that happened, there were steam cars and there were internal combustion cars. Well, the internal combustion cars have won out, but not because the steam cars were by any means inferior vehicles. As a matter of fact, they were banned from races because the steam cars won all the races.
I didn't know that.
That's true. And this is in the days of the Stanley steamer. This is low tech. We're in a much, much higher tech world now. See, and a steam powered automobile is not an internal combustion engine, it's an external combustion engine. Now an internal combustion engine has to use a special kind of fuel that can be injected into a cylinder and stuff like that for an internal combustion. So you're basically stuck with gases, vapors or liquids. You see what I mean? An external combustion engine can be run on anything that'll create a fire or even heat externally. You can run an external combustion engine on sticks you pick up along the road or off of heat from the sun focused down to a hot spot.
I
You
do
can
know
create
that
steam.
for us to have a combustible engine after all these years doesn't really make no sense.
Internal combustion.
Yeah. Internal combustion, yeah, absolutely. Crank that camera and give us all a view
Oh,
here.
okay, I'm sorry.
Well,
Every
if,
now and then, you were saying something good when I put it back over.
Oh,
on
okay.
You were agreeing with me. You agreed with me. So.
Well, I thought it was okay. But yeah, we
But
yeah,
you may
we
have
did
to
get
remind me every now and then. You
Yeah,
know I don't
yeah.
even look.
But what I would like to ask everyone here at the table, okay, we're hearing about either drilling off the coast
Yeah.
or opening up oil wells. What's your thoughts on that? Do we need to do that?
Okay, now here's what I think. Okay, here's what I think. I think that the oil companies have been asking to do that for a long time. The conservationists have been putting a halt to it for a long time. I think that the oil companies are saying that this is the only way they can bring gas prices down. They are using this as the high gas prices as leverage to be able to do that. And I believe that these boys want their cake and eat it too. I believe that the problem is not I do not believe that the shortage is really here yet. I believe the price is manipulated, and I believe that
Absolutely.
that drilling off of the coast will make little to no difference in the price if we told them you can drill tomorrow.
So do you, let me just again ask you, do we need to drill on the coast, open up wells, or what? Would you be open for that? I'm kind of curious, what do you think?
Well, I don't really know everything about it, but I personally think whatever they plan to do, we need to get everybody straightened out with this money situation before anything can get done, because it's just gonna be just as difficult, even if it was here. Now they've got access to it, and then they can still rack up prices, so it's not going to make a difference. Until people start trying to level things out, it's not a good idea to do anything else.
I'd like to see the technology come along that took us off of the oil dependency, like getting onto steam rather than an internal combustion engine, and then Fox them good. Then when we could say, oh well, gee, gas is $5 a gallon, but hey, I burn sticks, and here have your $5 a gallon gas. Enjoy it, boys.
I think our salvation lies in that big red ball in the sky, and that's going to be solar.
I know, and I believe it's going to be solar steam.
We've got
Could be.
computers, we got electricity. I've seen huge machines running warehouses without the use of oil or gas. I don't see why they couldn't build it the same way. All you gotta do
Now,
is
there
grease
will
it up
be-
a little bit.
There will be some applications, industrial applications, that will always require oil.
Oh, yeah.
There will be some things that oil will always be necessary to use.
That's one of the reasons we need
But private transportation is not one of them.
Right. That's what I was saying. That's why we need to start finding out some other way to run the cars and stuff like that, so that we can save the oil for what has to have oil.
Right.
But how long is that going to take? In the meantime, I'm
You might
strong. Think we need to open up the oil wells that's been capped. I'd open up them first, once it's feasible.
That's already been
That's
started.
already been done. And then here in North Carolina, the oil company says has asked to drill off our coast, and that's 50 miles out, by the way. And if we were to do that, I would just suggest that whoever our governor is needs to be really hard on
That
them
comes to
and say
North Carolina.
that
Right.
jobs comes in North Carolina, because we're going to
Jobs
have.
will be
Absolutely.
with $2 a gallon of gas for until that oil's gone.
Absolutely, jobs go to New.
But I don't. But you think that's going to happen?
Well,
See,
I have a- I
see,
have a
that's
mic-
a see.
My
That
the
won't
major
happen.
problem.
So just let them be.
The major problem I have is that a private company has access to a national resource, and they're not going to share it with the citizens. They're going to reap the profits and move on. And I do have a big problem with a private company saying, "Oh, well, let's drill national oil. That's a national resource." I don't like that. I don't like that. The potential there for corruption is too great, and they've already proven themselves to be opportunistic vultures. And
Maybe
No.
their
Until
taxes should go
until
up.
we can
Opportunistic.
But their
until we
taxes
can
are-
regulate what that can happen. And see,
Vultures.
and it does seem to be a sort of the argument always does seem to fall back to, well, should government
Well, here it
regulate
is.
business? And it's a weird argument. It's there's pitfalls either way you go. But I will tell you, I would rather have government regulated business than business regulated government. And that's what's happening in this country is corporations are the ones running it and not the government. And that's you're gonna have one or the other. If you're gonna have one or the other, I prefer to have the government regulating the business and not corporations regulating our government.
And I think
Beautiful flower. These fish were still swimming. We take one whole fish and fillet it. So you get the two fillets, the top and the bottom.
Right, and they were still swimming
Yesterday morning, these fish were still swimming. free.
yesterday morning. They were still swimming.
They got caught up in the clutches of capitalism.
I see, and see what it's done to
See
them.
what their life is.
Sure, I'm actually just someone stopping by to see what's fresh today. But I love the tailgate market.
lived in a very messed up time.
If
don't
you
we?
want to let
for
them,
Americans,
if you want
this
to
is
take
very
their
bad.
lead, if you want to listen to them, you just will have to suffer the consequences of obeying
Do you
them.
want to be on my TV show?
Lord.
You want to be in a porn show?
That's a little too tight.
Yes.
Now do it.
Hey, Asheville. Look good.
You say about the 60s now?
You know, share and share alike, be free. Well, it didn't work out so well. So we needed a new paradigm.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we've returned to the original.
Which is get it while you can?
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Well, show us a nice fish. It looks like a nice fish right there.
Here's a spot. Spots are very nice. That's a whole
There's
fish.
a nice spot.
They fry up really nice.
They fry up.
I've been listening to a lot of Chrome lately, and I've noticed some things in trying to feel I can emulate their style without it sounding at all like them. Like some of the
Ground, white knuckled, nails cut palms, dig at eyes, peeling flesh, theirs and mine, vibrating at a damaging frequency, between lethal explosions, sweat pouring, blood dripping, never dries. A toxic system to spread unseen in blinded masses to rot in pits. Viral glass to be collected from rancid corpses, ground then soaked in reducing chemicals. Extract the living specimens, incinerate detritus, exterminate superfluous populace. Do we use names in these things?
If you want to, you can say, I am Nate and I hate.
I am Nate and I hate. My name is Nathan Lowe, and I would like to say that I'm against art and poetry.
Say once a month and do a show, called whatever, and people would.
lights now.
All right, up to
You're
the
going
mountains.
back, we're gonna see a concert.
We're back.
We're gonna spend how much to get
There.
in?
We're back.
Oh, I didn't turn
We have
the
to drive. We have to go
volume
somewhere. I don't know. You people. I don't care.
We turned the
What's-
volume
why
up
do you
on the
want me to
monitor here so everybody
Yeah,
can hear
and
the.
that's the thing. You have to
420.
You know, John, you've been actually doing this for over a year now.
I know.
for them to
I
You're
thought
over
about
a
that
year.
today.
Yeah, I think
I
Yes.
thought of that.
Because I remember we were heavy
You know, I
into
don't
it by
really
the
know
end of
because we've
May.
been trial
Seemed like
and
that's
error
when
in
you
a lot of
first
these
I know.
came on. I remember July.
That's the point of media
It's
press.
about time for me to come up with
To get
something new and
anybody in
different
town to
now.
come in and become
I think
members.
everybody's probably bored enough with this by now.
You were here.
Well, I
There's plenty
think
of participation, but it's everybody
having
that
this
knows, and we pulled in
open
like
to
a-
all
That
the
was the
members
night
is what's
of the-
what's good.
I like
Is
to
that
do
what you're
that.
talking
You know, part of it is I've been doing it so
They
long.
had a-
Sometimes I
a
forget to
concert
do
that
that.
night at the
You know what I mean?
garage.
Yeah.
But
They had a concert
Yeah,
but
that's
last
right.
night.
I'm-
I remember that.
There's a lot of opportunities. for
sometimes
these
it
people to come in.
sometimes you get a little frustrated. You know, I do.
It all
And that's
happens
the
to the
thing.
best of us, right?
There's gotta be more appeal.
And but I try to be a bit of
So
a
you gotta
one man
think
membership
bigger.
drive too.
So your biggest
You know,
obstacle
and I try
is-
to also have all.
Your biggest
You know, I
obstacle
want to
is your
invite all the
biggest-
members. We
making
have
it
we have
appealing and
members
worthwhile
who
for
haven't
them
been
to come
on or
out.
haven't.
You know, what do they get?
Haven't
from-
produced anything, you know, and I
attending
try
one of
to
these
invite them
What
to
am I
come
gonna
get their
get?
feet wet
Right.
I'm
here.
gonna go. I'm gonna spend
And,
$10.
Well, I've seen
$5
that
for
happen. You
your-
know,
Get a
It's
chance
worked.
to
And
meet
it works.
brand new
It does.
talent, you know,
and I've
talent.
noticed some that
It's just-
did early on.
that's a
In
shame.
Asheville,
They early
what do you
on
do?
they
Get a
did
bunch of
producing
40
and hadn't turned
somethings to
anything
come
in. Now I
out
know
and
some
watch
coming
these
back.
teenagers
Have
do
you
the
noticed
noisy
that?
bands they don't wanna
In
hear.
particular,
They're not interested.
like
Asheville
Sean's
is-
calf. Remember the old man?
Is he coming back now?
I've seen some programs. I
Okay,
think
good.
it looks like he was coming back. So
Yeah.
I think he kind of, a little burnout or maybe something else went on. I don't know, but he's
Yeah,
back.
that's-
Well, you know, it does take a lot of energy to
that's
put
not
on a
really
show,
what I'm thinking about. Mine
and
would be more of a
anybody will get
stage
burnt out on it. You
And
know,
everybody's doing that.
Really?
Everybody's doing.
Have you
it.
gotten burnt
They're
out
doing
on
it
it?
their own because
There's times.
there's times.
There's like a week or two I won't turn in programming
work
Mm-hmm.
on a
because I
project
just
like that.
I
I'd be
need
willing to pay
that
$10
break.
for
Right.
Thomas
And,
Wolfe and see if I'm
Have you
sad.
noticed I haven't
And
taken the
maybe
break? I've been
back
right
out
on
this
it.
You're right.
thing,
You're here all
you
the
know,
time.
I've been
Yes.
right on it.
You're here all the
whatever,
If the
time.
doors are open,
to give
You're
a
here.
chance
I'm
to
here.
show
Yeah.
some talent, you know, and then
Even driving all the way to Weaverville in that gas guzzler.
best case scenario
yeah,
is
that's true.
promote
You don't
or somebody
know.
would
Oh,
hear
I
this
do
and say,
know.
"You know
I've
what?
thought
I
about
really
that."
like
Yeah.
his work.
That's
I
right.
really
It's-
like what
it's,
he's doing. You know,
it's,
I might be able to do something.
Which, by the
It's
way,
killing me.
which, by the way, we went on that photo of that shoot I did the other day. We spoke about off air a minute ago.
For the
internet.
Yeah.
Drove down that side road right below your house on the left. You pull out your driveway, turn left. We went down that side road and got up on a mound, and I did some video in there.
Of the work going
Yeah,
on down there.
Yeah, and it's people can't see it from the highway, but it's level back
Yeah.
there. So
it's hard enough just to
what's
promote
holding that back?
a local band.
From what I can tell, I talked to a supervisor out in Waynesville.
Down and catch them. I
Their
don't know what that
Walmart
would-
is
if you want
scheduled
a
to be
big
open
person to come
before
down
the one in
see your
Weaverville.
work,
They've already got
you're
the
gonna have to
walls
have
up,
some
and that's
draw,
okay.
like a super
That's
draw.
okay
Okay.
because they said they're doing it in phases. Once they get the walls up
Someone that has
in
that word of mouth.
Waynesville,
Yeah, I
they'll
remember
start
that.
So you're
putting
gonna have
the
to pay for your
foundation and
promotion.
walls up.
You're gonna
I know
pay
they're
how
building
much
a new one
money
in Waynesville. I forgot if they were doing
That's
that.
the reason
They'll
it's
bring the
kinda-
same crew down this way to do it.
That's
Is it?
all it is. It's phased work, and they go
Okay.
from one to the other.
All right. Well, now,
Sorry, ladies.
I was going to tell you because it doesn't seem like that's too much holding it up, and that's based on the fact that I'm waking up every day now by beep 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 beep. Yeah, they're hauling dirt and they're working. They're
What time do they start doing that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because they're supposed to. They're regulated to start at a certain time and
Yeah.
end at a certain time. No earlier, no later.
Yeah.
So
That's okay. I don't sleep normal hours like normal people.
Once you send them out there, they're getting hourly pay and they're taking their
Oh,
time.
I don't mean to be complaining at all. I'm not
Haven't
complaining at all.
Yeah.
I'm just noticing it. That's all. I'm just noticing that they are down there working, whereas
Where
they
you
weren't
at?
for a while.
What are you talking about?
Where they're putting in a new Walmart in Weaverville. But they put one in Waynesville first. He was
So
saying
where you
that.
live in Weaverville?
I live in
Oh,
Weaverville.
okay.
Yeah, I live in a good neighborhood, don't I?
that's a decent neighborhood.
It is, and most of my life, I grew up in decent neighborhoods and stuff like that. And I tell you what, I appreciate a good neighborhood. I really do, and there's that we're lucky to have them. You know,
We have a good neighborhood. I mean, I think, over on Murdoch, we walk and everybody walks and walks their
Uh-huh.
dogs and